Good morning, students. Good morning, staff. I'm Candice Chetty, and I'll be taking you through today's workshop on maximizing your study success through multiple intelligence. Um, Thank you for making time to be in this workshop today. It is, I'm hoping that it would be a lovely opportunity for us to connect, to learn from one another, and I encourage you to also share in the Q&A. Please feel free to share any comments you have, any thoughts you have about the presentation. Also feel free to share encouraging messages with other students as you are attending today's workshop. I've introduced myself. I'm just going to hand over to two of my colleagues to also introduce themselves um, and just show you the faces behind today's workshop.
Good afternoon, students. My name is Catherine Dikhale, and I'm an intern in the Counseling and Career Development Unit.
Thank you so much, Candice. Good day, student. Thank you for today's workshop. We really appreciate your time. My name is Mamo. I'm for Counseling Unit in Devon campus. Thanks once again for attending.
Good afternoon, student. My name is Tumelo Mukwena. I'm the student counselor. I'm based in Pietermaritzburg office. Thank you.
Thank you, colleagues. So now you have the names and faces behind the Counseling and Career Development Center in the KZN region. Once again, a warm welcome. I think without further ado, let's get started. So the overall aim of today's workshop.
Candice, before you can start, I would like to make just a quick announcement.
Thank you.
Yes, students, please note that there is a question Q&A section. Please feel free to post your questions and comment regarding this presentation. We will answer your questions there. Yeah. Please participate during the presentation. You don't have to wait for the presenter to finish or to wrap up the presentation. You may just type and post your questions, and then the available counselors will try to attend to your question during the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Madam Program Director. I appreciate it. So yeah, the overall aim of today's workshop is to introduce you briefly to something called multiple intelligence and to start thinking about how do you incorporate multiple intelligence into ways that may assist you with learning better and tapping into your potential a bit more. So I'll start off with a short introduction and then provide an overview or a brief overview of Gardner's multiple intelligence theory. And thereafter, we'll look at the different intelligences. And lastly, we'll end off by looking at multiple intelligence and actually studying and learning. Now, to start off, Dr. Howard Gardner, he developed the theory of multiple intelligences. He was a psychologist and he was from Harvard University. And what he proposed is that individuals possess 8 different intelligences. Now note the plural use of intelligences. So in describing intelligences as plural, this theory represents a departure, from the traditional conceptualizations of or understandings or concept of intelligence being stagnant. You are given 1 IQ, and that's where you are, or better said, maybe that we are either average, above average, below average in terms of things. And obviously this accounts for a broader range of human potential. So he accentuates the following primary claims. He says that all individuals possess each of the intelligences that I'm about to share with you guys to some extent. And no two individuals, even identical twins, exhibit the same profile of strengths and weaknesses. All individuals differ in the degree of skill they have, the degree or the nature of the combination of intelligences, and that's what makes life exciting, and just marvelous, versatile, and there's so much diversity in terms of who we are. We have a marvelous brain and a limitless capacity for storing information. Sometimes we think, oh, I've taken in too much. Will I be able to take this in? But we have limitless capacity for that. We're not even using most of our brain. May I also just say that through the presentation, the brain and the mind is also separate. So he says that intelligence is not static. And we don't really use the capacity with which we are naturally endowed. We want to be tapping into more of our brain's potential. And for more information about that, because I won't be covering that in too much detail, you may also look up an interesting aspect of neuroplasticity of the brain. And in essence, that word is just our brain has the ability to form and reorganize synaptic connections. The brain has an ability to change and adapt to new experiences. And the brain has the ability to form new connections and pathways each day. So you may think of it in terms of tackling something challenging, something new, and sticking with that in order to think, okay, I can build new pathways through this. I can build new synaptic connections by doing this. I can become better at this. Not to say I cannot do something, but I will try. And yes, our brain adapts. We form new synaptic connections as we do that. And we almost have the ability to rewire our brains. And this is sometimes even seen with people who have had strokes or people who have had brain surgery. So it's really an interesting concept if you want to look up about the neuroplasticity of the brain. So, like I said, humans are capable of so much. And I'll just allow me to share with you some stories of a few remarkable individuals. And these are just a few. We have them around us each day. We have met them, we've read about them, we watch them on TV. Let me start with Kim Peek. He was on the left. He's the inspiration for Dustin Hoffman's The Rain Man character. Don't know if you all have watched that movie, but he's the inspiration behind that character. So due to severe brain damage, Kim Peek scores below average on IQ tests. But did you know he's read 12,000 books and remembers every one of them? He can read 2 pages at a time. His left eye reads the left page and his right eye reads the right page. Isn't that amazing? So can we say that there is no intelligence? Can we say he is below average according to an IQ test? Then there's Ms. Fabiola Mann. She has an IQ of 162. That is 2 points higher than Stephen Hawking's and our famous Albert Einstein. She is 17, quite a teen prodigy. She's a chess player. She plans to study and work in the field of medicine. She has a purple karate bar. And she's also interested in music and plays the piano and plays the guitar. At 17, we see such amazing potential, such a wide range of intelligences within her. Then we see Messi and Michael Jordan, and they both have made a huge contribution to their respective fields. And with them, do we ask what their IQ scores are? And we can't argue at the same time that they think about their intelligence and how they use their body to achieve their goals. So ultimately, the question is not about, are you smart? But it is about how you are smart and discovering that about yourself. Now, a quote by Albert Einstein states that everyone is a genius, but if you judge a fish on its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing it is stupid. And sometimes we're faced with students who relate to this, or maybe you and I can even think about times or in some way where we could relate to that, where we feel like a fish trying to climb a tree, or we feel like we're unfairly judged in a context where we're just unable to shine. Or maybe being in a course, where you feel, what, I'm not suited to this. I feel so stupid in this place. and not feeling like you belong, and yet knowing I can't change my course. This is where I am. This is why I can't. I need to see this through. What do I do? And sometimes we also see others excelling and just performing so well. And we think about the effort that we put in, and we see someone else exerting so, getting half the mark of what they're getting with them exerting so much less effort than us. So sometimes we can also be caught in the trap of comparison, and that is never good for anyone. Just like the fish watching a monkey climb a tree, then, if I can say that, and wondering why the fish can't climb a tree. Do animals do that? No. Similarly, we can't compare ourselves to others. As individuals, we are all unique. We all have our strengths, we all have our capabilities, and we all have our own life story. And importantly, all of us have the capacity to rewire our brains, to form new pathways, to form new connections, to become better at something. Like I say, we are all unique. And maybe we need to explore the possibility of using part of this and taking what you can learn from today in terms of multiple intelligence as one key to unlocking your potential, be it your academic potential, be it your career potential. Today, I'll be looking largely at academic potential and ways to improve in that regard. But let me start and continue with the 8 intelligences. You will see that there's nature smart or naturalistic intelligence. There's people smart. People who are people smart have interpersonal intelligence. These people who are number smart and they have a high logical mathematical intelligence. They are people who are picture smart and their spatial visual intelligence is highest or most dominant. There are people who are self-smart and that is intrapersonal intelligence. There are people who are body smart, and that refers to a bodily kinesthetic intelligence. There are people who are music smart, musically intelligent, and there are people who are word smart, and we see them as being dominant in linguistic intelligences. So over the next few slides, I'm going to explain to you each intelligence. I'm going to explain to you if you have that dominant intelligence, how do you build memory? How do you go about studying? And how do you use that to maximize your potential? I hope that you're still with me. I hope that you're excited to listen further. So when we think about word smart, linguistic, yes, these individuals who are dominant in linguistic, they think in words. They have a sensitivity to the meaning of words, of sounds, of rhythms, and they use language to express and appreciate meanings. They have the ability to analyze information and create products involving oral and written language. So these are the intelligence of authors, maybe poets, journalists, comedians, translators, or attorneys. And they build memory through words. They need to express themselves and explain themselves in writing or using words. They may like to argue or debate a point, persuade others. They may even like to entertain or instruct. Now you can think of maybe a poet as an introvert, may enjoy writing. And an extrovert may use this linguistic intelligence to become a debater. Wow. So that's another example, but they could also learn language easy and have an affinity for that. And they generally have a good memory for names, dates, places. They love reading and they need lots of books. They like to lead and participate in discussions, and they like to write, play with words, and read and tell stories. Now, this is a not extensive list, but this is to give you an idea, and I want you to think about whether this is you. So when we think about linguistic intelligence, you build memory through words. So if you're strong in this intelligence, you might learn better by reading, memorizing, making up rhymes and puns, playing with words, and express or explain yourself in writing. You may want to participate in discussions and debates about a topic, or tell stories about what you have learned and explain that to others. And you also want to be asking questions. This is how you may build your memory and take in information better. There are those individuals who have a high visual spatial intelligence naturally. And these people think in pictures. You know, I tend to think in words, but I'm aware of colleagues who think in pictures. And when I first heard that, I was quite surprised because I thought everyone thought in words. But these individuals, they can easily visualize and manipulate things mentally. So whereas I need to physically move furniture around to see what it's going to look like, they can almost anticipate what it's going to look like without really physically moving the furniture. These individuals may enjoy solving puzzles, and they're able to almost navigate themselves in spaces. So if you drive, maybe you'll be able to find directions quite easily, just using that intuition. They have good visual memory, and they build memory through abstract language and imagery. So these are your artists, your designers, your architects. I think of sailors, pilots, and sculptors. Now, I'm not mentioning this to categorize and say people with this intelligence should follow those careers. I'm giving you examples of in which careers those dominant intelligences, where they are. In terms of visual spatial, if you have this strong intelligence, you might learn better. Or if you want to build this intelligence and you say, well, you know what, this is quite low for me. And in the past, this has been a rather low one for me, and I had to intentionally build on this. So how you will build memory and build those new connections and pathways through abstract language and imagery. So you may want to be watching videos, you may want to be watching YouTube clips around things or lectures on various platforms to take in information. You may want to use visual aids, tangible aids. So when you're studying, not just looking at words, but trying to come up with things you could even associate in that way. There's a picture associated with the words. You can think about how can you make this about solving puzzles. You want to be thinking in pictures and visualizing the details. You also want to be learning from seeing and doing and be engaged in your hands-on activities. These people are also really good at recognizing faces. So they may say, oh, I remember this thing because I remember this person doing the presentation on that day. Moving on to kinetic kinesthetic intelligence or body smart. These people are skilled at using their body to express ideas, feelings, or for any goal-directed activity, like I showed you Messi earlier. Their sense of timing and coordination is just superb, and they're very tactile. They're energetic. They love anything that involves control of body movements, and they can handle objects around them quite skillfully, be it a wall or be it something else. And they need to explore the environment through touch and movement. And they need to move while thinking. They enjoy exercise. They may love to dance. They enjoy crafts and hobbies. And they just demonstrate such an amazing ability for balance, dexterity, and just grace in the precision of physical tasks. When I hear about this one, I think about a student who approached me years ago and said, can you please write a letter for me? I want to write my exam standing up. I can't sit. I need to stand while writing the exam. But this is before I came across this. So obviously the request seemed very strange to me. I said, no, firstly, we don't write letters for that. And secondly, I wouldn't know what to base that on. But he kept saying, ma'am, I can't sit and learn. And sometimes in the academic environment, maybe you think about school, these people who couldn't sit still were seen as the busybodies, or they were labeled as naughty, disruptive, or even hyperactive, or And I'm not negating that we do have certain things happening, but at the same time, there are people who would say, I can't learn by sitting still. And just by listening all the time to someone talking, it just seems to go in by one ear and out by the other. And that I can't store information. And it's really important that we acknowledge this. It's not always recognized as well. So if you build memory through movement, you may want to see, obviously depending on your course and what you're taking in or where you're involved in, how can you incorporate role plays or dramas? Or how can you construct physical examples? Or can you exercise while revising? Can you listen to something and move while you are revising? Can you read while pacing? You may want to stretch regularly and think about ways where you can really try and think about approaching your studies physically. You may want to chew gum. You may want to play with an object like an elastic or plastic so that you have that movement going. Some people will pace a room and walk up and down while studying instead of sitting at a desk and only listening, only reading. They need to move while thinking. They need to touch, feel, move around, experience what they're learning. So then we move on to musical intelligence. Now, this is not only a love for listening to music, but these individuals, they think in and they have a sensitivity to sounds, rhythms, melodies, and tone. So for instance, in the office that I had, I would be sitting with someone and they'd be very attuned to what is happening outside and what they heard. And they would turn towards that and be very in tune with that is happening around them as well and almost get distracted by it. But these individuals recognize and create and reproduce music. They see the connection between music and emotions. They're sensitive to pitch, melody, rhythm. They may be skilled in performance, composition, and appreciation of musical patterns. And they importantly build memory through rhythm and intuition. Something that I think of here is even with speech writing, there's a rhythm. It involves musical intelligence when you are giving a speech and you're doing public speaking. These individuals tend to seek out sound, so they may they may tap their foot or their finger or their pen while listening or while working. They keep time to music. They have a highly developed intuition as well. They may collect songs, instruments, and music. And they may like to compose music, or some of them can even play an instrument. So maybe you can think of, am I musically smart? Is that something that I think that I'm naturally good at? So when we think of musical intelligence, we build memory through rhythm and intuition. So this intelligence, you may want to listen to recordings of things. You may want to listen to this recording afterwards. Talking to yourself when you're studying, yes, reading it out loud, reading out your content, mentally repeating information. You may even want to make up a song about what you have studied and just basically changing up your rhythm and changing up your tone. It's difficult to give examples for every kind of course you are doing and every kind of subject, but I need you to start maybe thinking along these lines and thinking, what can I improve on? What can I incorporate knowing the person I am and what would work better for me? You have interpersonal intelligence next. These are your people smarts, if I can call them that. And these individuals, they work well with other people. They understand other people well. They just have that capacity. So this obviously incorporates a sensitivity to and an empathy about others, and also a sensitivity to other people's moods, desires, motivations, and feelings, and have the ability to respond appropriately. So sometimes some people would say, you know what, I can just sense something when I went into the room, and And but these people also know how to respond, and they have maybe a gut around certain things, or intuition. They can be good managers, good at mediating skills. They can be good at motivating, leading, guiding others, and counseling others. So these are oftentimes very evident in counselors, teachers, social workers, sometimes in salespeople, political leaders, religious leaders, all generally could have a well-developed interpersonal intelligence. We think of Oprah Winfrey as well. And these individuals then build memory through bouncing ideas with other people, and they really excel at group work and team efforts and collaborative work. So you may want to engage with a study group if this is you. So if you have a strong interpersonal intelligence, you might learn better by study groups, comparing information with others. You may want to interview experts and talk to them. You may want to relate your personal experiences to what you may be studying and think about that. Being a team player, putting in a team effort may be important to you, and doing some cooperative, collaborative projects. Then we have the second last one is intrapersonal intelligence, which is self-SWOT. And these individuals have a capacity to really understand themselves and appreciate their feelings, their thoughts, their fears, and their motivations. They aware of their strengths, they're aware of their weaknesses, and therefore they plan effectively to achieve their goals. They use that in directing their life, and they're motivated to always identify goals, pursue goals. They may prefer to like working independently. They may enjoy empowering or encouraging others. They also have the ability to assess and evaluate some situations, and they're very aware of the broad range of emotions they may feel. So they generally work well with thoughts and emotions. So importantly for someone who is wanting to build this intelligence or is naturally dominant in this one, they would build memory through that introspection and through that reflection. And you may see this in theologians, psychologists, philosophers. I think famous people here may be Helen Keller, Mandela, Maya Angelou, Sigmund Freud, or even Mahatma Gandhi. So if you're strong in this intrapersonal intelligence, you might learn better by making sure you really avoid distractions, establishing your personal goals, your SMART goals for each of your modules for your course that you're doing. You want to set your own pace. Maybe working alone would sometimes be best for some things here, because that allows for that introspection, that reflection. Also, journal writing, self-assessment strategies, but also important then to put in time for relaxation and cater in time for reflection. I think that could really be helpful. I hope you all still with me. We have logical and mathematical intelligence, and these are probably your Albert Einsteins, your scientists, your Marie Curies, with your physicists, your chemists, your mathematicians, your accountants, your engineers, your inventors, your IT students, your computer programmers here. Basically, they think in numbers, patterns, algorithms. They're quite logical and analytical. So they're able to recognize those patterns, and they're able to calculate and process, those logical problems and equations mentally, allowing them to calculate, quantify, consider proportions, hypothesis, those kinds of things, I suppose, and carry out those complex mathematical operations. As you may hear, this one may be a bit lower for me, right? Something I need to work on.
These individuals also have the ability to recognize and then solve problems. They like to work out and fully understand those complex sequences. They also need a systematic proof of something before using something. They like to reason things out, know what's coming next, and they can be quite intuitive and disciplined in their thinking. So importantly, these individuals build memory through reasoning. So if you have strong logical mathematical intelligence, you might learn better by recording information systematically, thinking about, setting up some experiments for yourself. So what if scenarios, in other words, analyzing data, just having a space to reason things out, to calculate and process logical problems mentally, asking logical questions, and maybe even reading up some theories about how things work. Then we have our last one. For this one, I always think about the animal whisperers. I think we can think of a couple of those individuals, or people who study agriculture, maybe even. But these individuals are nature smart. They just understand the natural world so beautifully. They're able to identify and distinguish between just things in nature so wonderfully, like animals, plants, different types of rocks, weather patterns. And they're quite curious about that, and they just seem to know so much about it. To understand the natural world that is there, to recognize, name, and classify things, be it different species, be it ecological relationships. And they also can interact effectively with creatures, living creatures, like I say, maybe your animal whisperers, or who's the guy who work with crocodiles or alligators or something. They're also able to discern, the patterns of life and its natural forces. And so these are your meteorologists, your botanists, your zoologists. These are all professions that really require this to be, ideally, this to be quite high. Yeah. So if you are more nature smart, you may want to think about, what, can I study outdoors? Can I change my scenery around me? Some people enjoy studying around plants and around trees, and some people would even say, oh, I love studying with my pet. I love when my dog sits next to me, or my cat. I enjoy that aspect. Or maybe you may want to relate environmental issues to topics that you are going through. So in sum, this is just a summary of different intelligences with the key points on them. And we will share this presentation with you, or you can go back to the recording, or you can screenshot this page just as a summary as well. I also just wanted to share with you the reference list for today, in terms of if you wanted to read up a bit more about this. And I've also included some links to quizzes. Those are not psychological assessments. They are just informal quizzes that you may want to take those tests just to see, if maybe you have thought, oh, this is me, or this is me. But maybe if you're thinking, I'm really not sure what my dominant intelligences are and in which order they fall, maybe go to these links, try and complete the quizzes over there. They can just be found on the internet, and see what comes out, and see what you can try to incorporate as you go forward in your career journey. I think that brings me to the end of this presentation. I'm sharing with you our email address and my email address if you have any questions, any comments, or if you'd like to book an online, telephonic, or face-to-face session for counseling, you can do so on the following link. You'll be able to book with any of the counselors. There's also a link to all our self-help resources that are available 24/7 for you to have a look at. This presentation is also recorded, is also uploaded on our DCCD or Counseling and Career Development website if you wish to go through it again. I'm just going to touch base with Sma, where our program director will just let me know if there have been any comments, questions, because I've been unable to see the screen. So over to you, Sma. Over to you, Catherine.
There's a question. Denise is asking if a person can possess multiple intelligences.
Yes, definitely. I think, can I go ahead and answer, Catherine?
Yes, please.
Thank you for that very good question, Nisha. It is most certainly so. I don't think we all possess all 8 of the intelligence, just in different degrees. So while we may be dominant in one and lower in the other, we definitely have this in various degrees. So it definitely allows us to look at ourselves differently and think, maybe I don't not possess this. I can't say to myself, I'm not good at mathematical, logical things, or I'm not good at visual spatial related aspects, because those can be increased. And the aim is for us to tap into all of those intelligences and especially build the ones that you find are maybe lower than the others, if I can put it that way. Remember, we all have a unique profile of this. Even within the same profession, you will find there are different kinds of teachers, different kinds of lawyers, and even within twins, there are different kinds of skills. So yes, I hope that answers your questions. We all possess all 8 of these intelligences. So there can be no excuses. And yes, we need to build on the ones that are lower and capitalize on the ones where we know we are naturally good at and we excel in them, and use that more, also operating from a strength space, but not thinking I cannot build this and my intelligence in that regard is just going to stay at 0 forever. Remember remember that the pathways can be formed, and you may want to start by taking on something, committing to that, and seeing you're making a commitment to build that intelligence. I think I did so with PowerPoint presentations. I watched a colleague who just did amazing PowerPoints when mine was just horrible. I'm still developing in that regard, but I sat with her and things are improving because I knew visual spatial was not as high for me at the time. Thank you for the question. Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, Small. Is there any other comments, any additional questions?
There isn't any other, because I think this one is the same as the one you just answered. They were just asking if can you be more than one intelligence, like a mixture of 2 or more intelligences. So I think it's the same as the other one.
Oh, thank you so much. No, that is good. I think, after the presentation, please feel free to listen to the recording again. Also, I could send some information through to you that just allows you to read up about this in more detail, think about it, reflect on it a bit. I think there's definitely much to think about, and I will be sharing this with you all.
Candace,
Yep.
just another one, a quick one. Another one is asking, can a person's intelligence type change with age or traumatic events?
Yes, I think, when we think about, like I mentioned, people with brain injuries, right? Sometimes our brains can be affected by certain things, and we have to adapt. We adapt. People who lose certain functions, they have to adapt. If you've lost, maybe you've become visually impaired, our brain has to adapt, and we need to change in that regard. And the brain is amazing in that sense, able to build new pathways, able to just rewire things a bit. So also with age, I think we realize what our strengths are, but we also work on our weaknesses, I believe, or not our weaknesses, our growth areas. Also, we are in different contexts in the world of work. And sometimes we become good at something based on the environment we're in. And that's something else to consider. What were you naturally good at coming in? But when you look at your environment where you study, how has that shaped who you are today? What does that allows you to gain additional skills in? Similarly, in a work environment, what tasks have you been given that has forced you to develop in some things? And at the time, it may have seemed very difficult, but over time, you realize you have built memory in that regard. You're able to do things. So yes, I think with age, things can change, but I think it's a natural progression for us to evolve as people, and sometimes we become very stuck in our ways to say, I am a certain way and this will never change. And we need to adapt. And my colleague will be doing a session on growth and fixed mindset as well, where we say, I can't, or I can. It's better to say I can't yet, and work on those things. Sometimes we are stuck with something we have to do. As part of psychology, we had to do statistics, we had to do computers as modules. And boy, did I struggle through that. I loved it afterwards. I saw the need, but it wasn't my natural ability at the time. So, yes, I had to build that intentionally, and it took me much more effort than someone who was naturally um, good in that area. So that's why I say don't compare yourself with others. It may take you more effort to do something, but it doesn't mean you can't. Does that answer the question? Okay, so I think that brings us to the end of today's presentation. I really appreciate you being here. We really thank you on my side. Thank you for joining us today. I'm just